Illinois, the prairie state? You think it's just cornfields in Chicago? Think again. Beneath the green grass and inside crumbling limestone walls are 15 of the most chilling stories of death, violence, and trapped spirits. Don't skip a second, because you might just be the next one they come looking for. One, McPike Mansion, Alton. The air hangs thick and heavy on Mount Lookout. A stillness that predates the decay clinging to the McPike Mansion in Alton. Built high and grand in 1869, this Italianate Victorian shell now stands as a monument to its own haunting. Its skeletal windows staring blankly over the city. A perfect, chilling tableau of abandonment. You can feel the cold radiating from the brick long before you cross the rusted iron fence. Inside, the grand rooms, once filled with the warmth of a prominent family, now host a silence broken only by the whispers of the long gone. Visitors speak of a profound, disorienting sadness that washes over them near the staircase, the same spot where an apparition, a woman in a flowing green dress, is reportedly seen descending, seemingly oblivious to the centuries that have passed. Others have stood in the vaulted wine cellar, the mansion's dark epicenter, and smelled a sudden, intense cloud of stale cigarette smoke. A phantom scent attributed to Paul Leitchinger, a former tenant who lingers long after his death in 1945. It's not just fleeting shadows. The current owners themselves, years ago, reported seeing a man in old-fashioned attire staring from an upstairs window, a figure they later identified from an antique photograph as Leitchinger, haunting his former domain. This house is so notorious that multiple published reports and local news stories have detailed its paranormal activity, often focusing on the full-bodied apparitions, the disembodied children's laughter echoing through the halls, and the strange phenomenon of objects vanishing and reappearing in different locations, as if a playful, unseen force is deliberately manipulating the living. They say over a dozen spirits claim residence here, the builder, Henry McPike, his family, a mysterious servant named Sarah, and others whose tragedies are permanently imprinted on the structure. With so many souls seemingly trapped between the walls, still playing out their final days, one has to wonder, when you enter a house this haunted, are you truly a visitor? Or are you just the newest player in their never-ending ghost story? Two, Resurrection Cemetery, Justice Archer Avenue. The darkness on Archer Avenue is a profound, isolating thing, especially as you drive past the endless, silent grounds of Resurrection Cemetery. For decades, this long, lonely stretch of road, known as Chicago's most haunted highway, has been the hunting ground for one of America's most famous spectral residents, Resurrection Mary. The story is a recurring nightmare for countless unsuspecting drivers. They see her a beautiful, young, blonde woman, often wearing a delicate white party dress, her hands clasped, thumb out, seeking a ride in the frigid Illinois night. She's quiet, her skin unnervingly cold to the touch. The journey is uneventful until the car slows near the massive, ornate gates of the cemetery. Then, without a word, she is gone, not running, not opening the door, but simply gone from the seat right beside you. Her legend is so pervasive that for years, stories of this vanishing hitchhiker were a constant fixture in local Chicago newspapers and folklore journals, detailing driver after driver who came forward with the exact same chilling account. an eerie pattern spanning back to the 1930s. The sheer number of sightings by seemingly credible witnesses, including cab drivers and police officers, cemented her status. The most unnerving physical proof was once visible at the cemetery's main gate, a set of iron bars that were reportedly pried apart from the inside, bearing faint, scorch-like handprints, delicate, feminine prints where Mary allegedly clung before vanishing back into her eternal resting place. The bars have since been removed, but the memory remains, a chilling scar on the public record. Is she the restless ghost of a girl killed on the road after a fight with a boyfriend, forever walking home? Or is Resurrection Mary merely the ultimate cautionary tale, a phantom designed to teach you that on the most desolate of drives, the person sitting next to you may not be living at all? 3. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Midlothian. The forest path leading to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Midlothian is a winding, overgrown tunnel that swallows all light and sound, immediately separating you from the living world. This abandoned, vandalized graveyard is considered one of the most intensely haunted spots in America, a place where the veil between worlds is threadbare. Here, amidst the broken, scattered headstones, numerous entities wander. You might witness the phantom farmhouse, a small, brightly lit Victorian-style home that appears near the pond before shimmering and vanishing as you approach, as if the land itself is playing a cruel trick on your sanity. Or perhaps you'll see the spectral horse and plowman dragged into the murky quarry pond decades ago, his doomed animal forever reappearing at the water's edge. But the most famous and heartbreaking resident is the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove, a mournful figure in a flowing white dress, often seen wandering the grounds, searching for the infant she lost. The chilling legend of this white lady isn't just hearsay. In 1991, one of the most famous ghost photographs ever taken captured her image. The picture, an infrared photograph, clearly shows a translucent woman sitting gracefully on a tombstone, gazing out into the dark woods, an image so clear it has been featured in books and news articles across the country as compelling, if controversial, evidence of the supernatural. Skeptics have tried to debunk it for years, but the photo and the continuous sightings of a woman near the grave of an infant daughter maintain the terrifying lore. In a place where a photograph can confirm a ghost, where an entire house can simply cease to exist, how do you know if your own mind or the path beneath your feet is the next thing to disappear? 4. Gibbons Beverly Castle, Chicago, rising abruptly on the ridge of Longwood Drive. The Gibbons Beverly Castle is an anachronism, a massive, crenellated Irish fortress dropped onto a quiet Chicago street. Built in 1886 by real estate developer Robert C. Gibbons as a replica of a castle he loved abroad. It carries a weight of tragedy and longing. Legend holds that Gibbons built the castle for his Irish fiancée, but she tragically died before she could ever cross the threshold into her new home. It's her spirit, they say, that haunts the stone walls, forever seeking the life she was promised. Sightings of a beautiful young woman in old-fashioned clothing, often with a distinct Irish brogue, have been a fixture of the castle's lore for nearly a century. One chilling account involves a caretaker's mother in the 1960s who was startled to find a woman in a flowing white dress standing silently behind her on the second floor. When asked what she wanted, the spectral figure with an Irish lilt simply said she was looking for the minister and then vanished into the heavily locked building without a sound or trace of entry. The paranormal activity has been so persistent that its history, including the rumors of a spirit with an Irish accent, has been documented in various non-fiction books on Chicago hauntings and paranormal publications. Decades later, former staff and visitors still report inexplicable footsteps echoing from the empty third-floor turret and the unnerving feeling of a child's tug on their clothes in the hallways. When you stand beneath the massive limestone towers and feel the sudden chill on a warm summer day, you have to ask yourself, is this beautiful castle a historical landmark? Or is it merely a cage where a bride-to-be's ghost must endlessly wander the rooms built for a dream she never lived to realize? 5. Egyptian Theater, Dekalb. Step through the majestic, scarab-adorned facade of the Egyptian Theater in Dekalb, and you step back to 1929 into a world designed for drama, a drama that never truly ended. This historic movie palace, with its soaring murals and intricate Egyptian revival decor, is not just a stage for the living. It is a permanent host to at least half a dozen resident ghosts. One of the most frequently seen is the apparition of a man, often reported as a man in a maintenance jumpsuit, who patrols the aisles, perpetually checking in on the building he loved. This spirit is widely believed to be Irv Kummerfeld, one of the co-founders of the preservation of the Egyptian Theater Group, who suffered a fatal heart attack in the very auditorium he fought to save. Since his passing, numerous staff and investigators have reported strange phenomena consistent with his presence. For instance, reports detail how cigarette butts would routinely appear in the smoke-free lobby until his old desk was moved there. An unusual form of appeasement for a man who died tragically while volunteering. Even more elusive is the woman in green, a beautiful female figure often glimpsed in the upper balcony seats during a performance, only to vanish when staff rush up to find her. The extensive list of encounters, which includes visual and audible evidence, has made the theater one of the top 10 most haunted theaters in Illinois, a fact regularly highlighted in local news articles and the theater's own promotional tours. When the house lights dim and you hear the sudden, faint sound of children giggling near the basement dressing rooms, or feel a cold tap on your shoulder when you're completely alone, you have to ask, are you just watching a show? Or are you part of the phantom audience that always gets in for free? Six, Ashmore Estates, Ashmore. Ashmore Estates stands starkly against the Illinois plains, a sprawling brick monument to over a century of sorrow. Originally built in 1916 as the Coles County Poor Farm, an almshouse for the impoverished, sick, and mentally ill, it later became a private psychiatric facility. With countless documented deaths on the property and a history steeped in the hardship of its inmates, the energy here is less a haunting and more a painful echo of institutional despair. The intense paranormal activity has made it a hot spot for investigators, and it has been prominently featured on major paranormal television shows like Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters. Witnesses consistently report encounters with two main spirits. One is believed to be the clear apparition of Joe Bloxam, an inmate who reportedly died after being struck by a train but managed to crawl all the way back to the almshouse before collapsing. The other is the childlike entity known as Elva, who is said to have died in an early fire on the property. Paranormal investigators and guests frequently recount the unnerving experience of feeling a small hand or gentle tug on their shirt. a playful yet heartbreaking interaction attributed to the long-deceased child. Even more aggressive activity has been reported in the boiler room, where a hostile spirit, possibly a former worker annoyed by the living, is known to aggressively push and shove visitors. Given its documented history of human suffering and its continuous presence in the news and media as a destination for the brave, the question remains, are the spirits of Ashmore Estates truly malevolent? Or are they simply the forgotten, demanding that their final, desperate moments finally be witnessed? Seven. Former Chicago Historical Society Building, Chicago, standing at 632 N. Dearborn Street. This fortress-like Romanesque building, a historical landmark, has carried a horrific legacy since its construction in 1892. It was built as the new home for the Chicago Historical Society after their original building was incinerated in the Great Fire of 1871. A tragedy that saw numerous people believing the structure to be fireproof run inside for shelter, only to perish in the flames. It is the panic, the tragedy, and the sheer volume of death associated with the land beneath this foundation that fuels its terror. The haunting is amplified by another dark chapter in 1915, the capsizing of the SS Eastland cruise ship in the Chicago River killed 844 people. And the basement of this very building was temporarily used as a makeshift morgue for the victims. The result is a ghostly traffic jam of tragic spirits over the decades. As the building transitioned into various notorious nightclubs like Excalibur and Castle, patrons and staff consistently reported a particularly active entity, the apparition of a woman in a long white dress, often seen gliding or descending the grand staircase. Eyewitnesses frequently claim to have been inexplicably pushed while walking down the stairs. A startling physical interaction attributed to her spectral impatience. Paranormal researchers, whose findings are often cited in news articles about the building's tumultuous history, also point to the infamous dome room on the 3rd floor as a hub of poltergeist activity, with drinks being shoved off bars and objects mysteriously found broken without the motion detectors ever being triggered. With a legacy spanning 2 major city disasters and the permanent presence of the dead, you have to ask, when the velvet ropes drop and the music swells in this former morgue, are the figures you see in the shadows part of the party or part of the terror? 40. DeSoto House Hotel, Galena. The DeSoto House Hotel, the oldest continually operating hotel in Illinois, opened its grand doors in 1855, instantly becoming the center of Galena's social and political life, a place where both Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant addressed crowds from its balcony, but not all of its esteemed guests have checked out. The DeSoto is considered the most haunted hotel in the state, a reputation earned from decades of recurring, chilling phenomena. The most famous resident is the Wen, Lady in Black, a shadowy female apparition often seen descending the grand staircase or gliding across the lower level. Here is the undeniable, structural evidence of her presence. Countless accounts reported seeing her disappear straight into a solid wall in the dining area. During a flood-related repair in 2011, workers removed the wall section and discovered, to their shock, that it had once been a working doorway, perfectly aligned with the apparition's path, a detail that has been widely reported by local and regional news media, leading to the hole being covered with glass for visitors to view. Other guests report the distinct, anachronistic smell of phantom cigar smoke, or feeling a heavy presence sit on the edge of their bed in the middle of the night. On the highest floor, a female servant, heartbroken and jilted by her lover, is said to have drowned herself. And guests today report a creepy feeling of being watched, with their bedding being tugged or pulled by unseen hands. When you check in and are handed your antique key, you must wonder if the specter of a past tragedy is waiting for you in your room, or if you're sleeping in the same space once occupied by a Civil War general, eternally sharing the same haunted history. Nine, Cave in Rock State Park, Cave in Rock. Hanging ominously over the Ohio River, the massive, gaping mouth of the limestone cavern at Cave in Rock State Park is one of the most historically cursed locations in Illinois. From the 1790s through the early 1800s, this natural wonder was notorious as the perfect lair for the most ruthless outlaws in the American frontier, a den of river pirates, highwaymen, counterfeiters, and America's first serial killers, the Harpy brothers. History records that men like Samuel Mason turned the cave into a tavern to lure unsuspecting river travelers to their deaths, robbing them of their goods and often pushing them off the cliff above. The land is so steeped in murder and mayhem that it has been the subject of numerous books on frontier outlaws, and its dark history was even featured in the 1962 Hollywood film How the West Was Won, where ruthless bandits used the cave as a base of operations. Today, the cave remains a notorious paranormal hotspot. Visitors and investigators frequently report hearing the disembodied sounds of agonizing screams, moans, and desperate cries for help echoing from the cavern's deep recesses, the residual emotional energy of the countless victims left to die. Adding to the terror is the local lore of Iraqi James Ford, a criminal and supposed associate of the pirates, who was shot to death and, according to legend, was buried upside down after his coffin was dropped. People who venture into the desolate park late at night claim to hear strange, choked sounds near the river's edge, as if the unquiet dead are still trying to escape their watery graves. With such an accumulation of human depravity clinging to the rock walls, how can any visitor truly feel safe in a place so perfectly suited for ambush, where the echoes of murder are the only thing that remain? 10. Old Joliet Prison, Joliet. The menacing, castellated walls of the Old Joliet Prison, built in 1858, loom over the city like a permanent monument to despair, having housed everyone from common criminals to infamous figures like Babyface Nelson and Howdy, John Wayne Gacy. That over its nearly 150 years of operation, the prison became a cauldron of violence, disease, and unspeakable suffering. And many believe the emotional residue of that pain is permanently etched into the limestone. Today, the facility is a renowned destination for paranormal investigators who report that the spirits here are overwhelmingly negative and aggressive. Accounts from as far back as 1874 detail a haunted cell in which a prisoner named Chase, who had been executed, would appear sometimes headless, sometimes with his head opened and the brains taken out, and would physically torment living inmates, even pushing them out of their bunks. More recently, visitors in the segregation unit and shower stalls have been overwhelmed by feelings of rage and despair, and paranormal tour guides have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, of tormented, angry voices shouting, "Get me out," or telling investigators to leave. The sheer volume of reported activity has led the site to be featured on major paranormal television programs, while the continuing phenomena, like unexplained electronic malfunctions, shadowy anomalies in photos, and the persistent reports of disembodied wailing and whistling from the cell blocks underscore the horrific violence that defined the prison's operational years. When you walk through the long abandoned corridors of this former home to hundreds of executions and countless murders, you have to wonder if the anger of the dead is something that can ever truly be locked away. "11. Two Brothers Roundhouse, Aurora. The Two Brothers Roundhouse, a massive 1856 limestone structure in Aurora, stands as a haunting relic of the industrial age. Once a vital maintenance hub for the Chicago and Aurora Railroad, it's nearly 2 decades of abandonment, followed by a meticulous restoration championed by legendary Chicago Bear Walter Payton, seems to have stirred up more than just the dust. The Roundhouse's brutal history as a working rail yard, marked by horrific industrial accidents and violent mishaps, has made the building one of the most notoriously haunted in the city. Employees and guests frequently report a palpable sense of the past, but the ghostly encounters are vivid and recurring. Shadowy silhouettes have been seen dancing in the vast lager room late at night, long after all the customers have left, and the full-bodied apparition of a 1950s train worker has been sighted and felt in a cold corridor that staff refuse to walk down alone. Most chillingly, staff and investigators report the distinct presence of a wee-stick little girl carrying a lantern, seen wandering the premises. The supernatural activity here is so credible that the Roundhouse is a cornerstone of the local ghost tourism industry, hosting regular lantern-guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations that offer guests the chance to use ghost hunting equipment inside the historic site. With so many spirits seemingly trapped at the end of the line, still clinging to the place where their lives met a tragic, sudden end, you must ask when you sit down for a brew, is the cold spot next to you caused by a draft, or by the ghost of a workman who never clocked out? "12. Historic Rose Hotel, Elizabethtown, perched dramatically on a bluff overlooking the Ohio River. The historic Rose Hotel, dating back to 1812, proudly stands as the oldest continually operating hotel in Illinois and a testament to early American river travel. But this historic structure, which once served as a vital tavern and boarding house, harbors more than just a rich past. The spirits of former owners and guests are deeply rooted in its brick walls. The most frequently encountered specter is believed to be Sarah Rose Marne, a former owner who ran the establishment in the late 19th century. Her apparition has been repeatedly seen gliding across the second-floor halls and climbing the main staircase. Staff and paranormal investigators often report hearing a disembodied female voice and witnessing objects move on their own, a mischievous activity attributed to the long-deceased innkeeper. Furthermore, the land itself carries a chilling history during a restoration effort. Excavations revealed the unmarked remains of what are believed to be former slaves and guests buried beneath the porch and in the side yard. A grim discovery that was detailed in a 2014 article in The Daily Egyptian, solidifying the building's deeply troubled past. Now, an operational bed and breakfast. The hotel is a frequent stop for ghost hunters who seek the peaceful, yet persistent spirits who have checked in but never left. When you fall asleep in a room that was once a frontier tavern, overlooking the dark, ceaseless current of the Ohio River, can you be certain that the creaking in the hall is just the old floorboards settling? Or is it the sound of a lady in black making her final rounds? 13. Haunted Conover Square Ghost Tours. Once the bustling Schiller piano factory built in the 1890s, the expansive limestone structure now known as Conover Square in Oregon, Illinois, has traded the sounds of music production for the whispers of the dead. Now converted into a unique indoor shopping village, the 120-year-old building's towering brick walls and dimly lit back hallways are the backdrop for relentless paranormal activity, making it a cornerstone for local ghost tours and investigations. The hauntings here are diverse and unsettling, a dark echo of its industrial past. Visitors report the sound of loud, unexplained crashes, originating from the otherwise unoccupied third floor, the very area that would have been filled with heavy machinery and moving pianos. More personal and terrifying are the claims of a ghostly young girl, whose disembodied giggling is often heard echoing through the building's halls and museum section, while guests in the chilling basement have even claimed to feel an heestbenhosweewen, unwelcome touch by an unseen presence. The phenomena are so convincing that paranormal investigation teams frequently hold events here, collecting evidence with spirit boxes and thermal cameras. The history of the building, including its past life as a factory and its rumored connections to the dark secrets of the Roaring Twenties, has been leveraged by local tours, offering haunted history dinner buffet show and tour experiences that promise a look at true crimes from the Roaring Twenties to this current day. When the shops close and the lights dim, revealing the shadows of the massive, empty rooms, you have to ask, are the lingering spirits of Conover Square just the workers who died on the job? Or are they the souls of those whose secrets were buried deep within the foundation of this former piano factory? 14. Crenshaw House, Old Slave House, Equality. Perched atop Hickory Hill near Equality, the Crenshaw House, tragically known as the Old Slave House, is a looming symbol of one of the darkest stains on American history. Built in the 1830s by wealthy salt baron John Hart Crenshaw, the mansion's grim reputation stems from Crenshaw's documented and criminal involvement in the reverse Underground Railroad, kidnapping free black individuals and selling them back into slavery in the South. The home's sinister core is the attic's third floor, believed to be a clandestine slave jail consisting of 12 tiny, airless rooms. Early visitor accounts, published as far back as the 1920s, describe these rooms as containing chain anchors embedded in the floor and a whipping post. And the house's association with the Ohio River slave traffic was often noted in historic state guidebooks. Since the 1920s, the house has been the source of intensely traumatic ghost stories. Visitors and local residents have repeatedly reported hearing the disembodied sounds of sorrowful moanings, anguished wailings, and rattling chains coming from the vacant, oppressive attic space, the phantom cries of the kidnapped and enslaved. Paranormal investigators who have explored the site detail extreme cold spots, even on the warmest days, and unexplained whispers. The emotional weight of the mansion is so devastating that one self-described exorcist who visited the house in the 1920s to witness the alleged ghosts reportedly died from a sudden illness the very same night. Although the house is now a state historic site closed for restoration, its haunting reputation is a direct echo of its documented history of human atrocity. When the wind moans through the rotting wood of the third-floor cells, is it merely the sound of decay? Or is it the collective, desperate sorrow of the souls who were robbed of their freedom right under the eaves of the luxurious mansion? 15. Couch Mausoleum, Lincoln Park, Chicago. The Couch Mausoleum stands as a solitary, limestone sentinel at the edge of Lincoln Park. A chilling architectural anomaly in a vibrant urban space. This vault, built in 1858 for hotel magnate Ira Couch, is the last above-ground remnant of what was once the vast, overcrowded Chicago City Cemetery. A marshy burial ground that was eventually closed due to sanitary concerns and cholera contamination, while tens of thousands of bodies were supposed to be moved when the land was converted into Lincoln Park in the 1860s. Historians estimate that as many as 12,000 unmarked corpses, the poor and forgotten, remain buried beneath the grass. A fact visually confirmed when construction near the Chicago History Museum in 1998 uncovered the remains of over 80 individuals. The Couch tomb remains a stubborn mystery. It was too heavy and expensive to move, so the park commissioners simply allowed it to remain as a reminder of the park's origin. A haunting piece of history that has been a regular subject of city news articles and historical debates for over a century. The haunting lore surrounding the tomb is one of restless energy rumors from the 1880s claimed that standing before the vault at midnight and reciting a specific phrase would cause a large, white, ghostly figure to emerge and greet the visitor. Given that the entire park is essentially a massive, unmarked graveyard, visitors today report feeling an intense sense of oppression, sudden cold spots, and catching fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures darting between the trees at dusk. When you take a walk in Lincoln Park, surrounded by joggers, picnic blankets, and the laughter of children, you must wonder, is the unsettling air you feel the mere weight of history? Or is it the restless, disturbed energy of the thousands of forgotten dead buried just inches beneath your feet? We have just ripped through the darkest scars of Illinois, from prisons and asylums to forgotten tombs. These souls don't need a ticket to attend. The final question is, after hearing this, do you still dare to look directly into the shadows when night falls where you live?